Yes, and we are in fact live. So, welcome to Youth Flag Rugby Discussion. This is a podcast or a live stream focusing on youth non-contact mixed gender rugby union. Again, no animations, no music, just plain old rugby discussion. My name is Daniel, and we'll go down the Discord list. Anna's on mute right now. She's on mute. She won't be able to talk. But the next person down is somebody new. Who's next here?
All right, this is me, Chris Cuddy. I think want an introduction. Didn't make the pod last week, so very briefly, I've been a rugby player for somewhere around 25 years, and I've been a rugby coach and ref, and currently a dad. If you pause me right here if you want to know about my playing background, but because I think some of it's relevant. But the short story is, rugby's been a part of my life for quite some time, and it's a very big part of my whole family's life currently.
That's fantastic. Shaggy.
All right, Pete Finneran, Shaggy from the South Shore Sharks. I'm president coach of the team.
Yeah, and I'm Steve Cygnus, coach and president of the Rentham Barbarians.
All right, guys. So let's go ahead and kick things off with a little bit of news. A little bit of news. Who's got? Anybody have anything?
Chris summed it up pretty good.
I was going to say, this is one of the biggest weekends I think we've had walking into, the National Development Program. Coming here to give a seminar this week, to give a ton of clinics this weekend, to spend here the whole weekend. And we've got our first official MLR home opener for the Free Jack. This is about as big as a weekend we've had for rugby in this area as I can remember.
And along with that, we also have we're all dealing with the coronavirus. There's lots of we just got the state of emergency called in the state, and the St. Patrick's Day parade was shut down. We're looking at we got kind of an uncertain future over the next couple weeks. So
whoa, wait! I want to hear more about that. Wait a second. The St. Patrick's Day parade in Boston. Oh, wait, the Boston one, or which one's
Boston?
Been?
Yeah, Boston got shut down. So we
what?
Yeah.
When was that announced?
Was it yesterday?
Yeah, I think it was yesterday. Yeah.
Guys, that's huge.
Still happening though. So.
It's still happening though.
The Sharks who are marching in the Scituate parade are we're still going. It's still on so far. So we're hoping that doesn't get ixnayed. But so the public events are getting scaled down. There's they're closing. They just closed Plymouth High School for cleaning. There was transmissions. There's been local transmissions. People have been testing positive in Quincy, Cohasset, I believe, and they did have that. I don't know if someone got tested positive in Plymouth or there was a scare or what, but there was definitely some kind of scare of infection down there. So there's reaction going on for sure.
Yeah, what's interesting to me about this is that for the parade to be shut down, I was really surprised about that. In a parade, you're outside. I mean, you would think that if you want to shut something down, you'd shut down people from being inside the bars and sharing their dream. People are out on the parade and out of the street. Don't seem to be as much of a threat as even our workplaces. I'm sure all our workplaces are taking this really seriously, and it just doesn't seem like when we talk about an outdoor rugby venue like the Free Jacks game this weekend or a parade, that wouldn't be the first thing that I shut down. And so it seems counterintuitive to me.
Yeah, the whole thing's the whole reaction's kind of bad in my opinion. It's like the spread is already in the community. It's already kind of happening, right? So you're exactly right. It's like they're not really putting the effort in where it needs to be. From where I stand, anyways. Yeah, it should be. We're not testing people. We're not testing. People are asymptomatic for up to 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So we can't test the entire populace, and we know at this point that it's community spread and being spread by asymptomatic carriers. So we're almost at a point where we need to start managing the worst case scenarios. So it's only it affects the high. the high high mortality rates for the elderly. So it'd be more money better spent to lock down all the nursing homes, but put all the effort into care of the elderly, and it's the elderly and the infirm. So physical fitness, people getting out, people moving, not being sedentary is actually one of the best solutions for what we have, because once the whole the virus is so deadly because we haven't been, and we've never seen it before. So if it gets in us, we build up an immunity and we're healthy, it's no longer an issue.
Thank you, Dr.
you know,
Shaggy. Wasn't ready for that analysis.
I don't know.
Steve, were you gonna say something?
No. I mean, I agree. It is surprising that the outdoor events are being canceled. One of the things they did mention, it was close contact within 6 feet of other people, I think, is when they start actually talking about the concern. So I understand sporting events. It does seem like the outdoor sporting events, you have more fresh air. It may not be an issue, but I don't know. I agree with what Shaggy said, and I'm happy to hear some of the things that, canceling Grandparents' Day at the schools or taking actions like that. I totally understand that. We've had one of the elementary schools in our school district closed for a day during the week because of a parent that tested positive. So, they're closing down and cleaning up, doing what they can. I do wonder if some of it's a bit overreaction to it, but I think the hysteria will continue to grow for a while. And it brings up the question. I'm part of the scouting program here in town. It came up today at the meeting we had. Are we going to look to cancel some of our events? What does it mean bringing 60 kids and family into the church basement and into close quarters? And what does it mean for us for rugby practice?
Yeah,
we're still
that's
a couple of weeks from kicking off, and I'm interested to see what that looks like when we get closer.
guys. In the fall, we had a lot of Boy Scout activities closed down, Cub Scout and Boy Scout activities because of Triple E, and the fact that the mosquitoes were out, and it was particularly. There was a lot of it going around here in the Rhode Island area. So Boy Scouts were just, the council said no outdoor activities, dusk or sunset. Everything was shut down. And if somebody comes down, whether I don't know who it is, that the grand poobah flag in the sky comes down and says no, no rugby, no flag rugby this season. I mean, what would that do or at least for a month? What would that do to teams? Would kids just go do other activities? I mean, that would be awful if somebody were to tell me you can't have rugby this season.
Right.
Yeah, good point. I'd be surprised if rugby was alone in that, and I would be disappointed in a whole. I think if somebody is going to come down and say, you know what, for the month of April, we need kids to take a break from being in contact with each other. We're talking about, in that case, that schools will be impacted that way, and it would be and other sports would be impacted. But that would be so disappointing to me. I guess if the pandemic got that bad, it must be worth it. But I'd be disappointed. Kids need more time outside, not more time inside. So
Absolutely.
I certainly hope that wouldn't be the case. And then, interestingly enough, what will we do as an alternative? Instead of gathering outside where we're running around, we'll be gathering inside, and we'll be the kids will either be together playing video games, or if we have our way, the kids will be together and watching rugby on TV. But I think if I certainly hope it doesn't come to that, but I can only imagine if it comes to that, we got much bigger issues, because kids running around outside should be one of the last things to is one of the last things we need to do to protect ourselves from this virus.
So I want to bring us in and talk a little bit about the fact that the parade in Boston was canceled. Because Shaggy, you were talking earlier about being in a parade. I know that yours hasn't been canceled, and sort of starting to transition a little bit as to the impact of the virus, and how it may or may not be impacting recruiting, promoting, recruiting, that type of stuff. Shaggy, how do you use, or how would you be using the parade, and how much does it hurt if the parade was closed?
Well, I mean, I'm using the parade just to be part of the community, show that we're part of the community, and it would, it would stink if it was canceled, but at the same time, we'd stay at the same level. It's, it's not
true.
like our one
That's true.
one thing, it's just one of the things that we do just to get out there. So as an organization, for promoting purposes, um, I use it to get the new recruits ready, kind of get them, meet their teammates and get like do an unofficial, like, non-rugby thing to get out there throwing candy. Everyone loves marching the parade, throwing candy at people.
Yeah.
And I show the town that we're there, we're visible. We're welcoming people in. We're throwing balls to the people on the side watching us. It's a great time, and it's super helpful. I know we've been doing it for 2 years now, and I've definitely, I started giving out, I gave out handouts the first year, and I got a lot of feedback there. Not a lot of people directly from the parade, but just visibility, people knowing that we exist. And it's great. It's always great being tied to something that people are smiling at, regardless if they're there or not. And either way, if it gets, even if it does go on, I know there's going to be a different attitude, because there's, lots of things getting canceled. All the St. Patrick's Day parades in Ireland got canceled. There's a couple on the, there's going to be a couple more that drop off. And if it does, for the, you just got to look at it in the term of, the greater picture. Just deal with it, and it's just, it's what it is. It's just the time. It's just it's the timing, and hopefully, because of the parade, no, one old person doesn't get sick and dies. That's the way I think of it. It's a parade, and if it's for health and for safety. I might not personally agree, but you got to look at it like that. It's like there's other people looking at a bigger picture than I am sometimes.
Yeah, it's pretty thoughtful. I would say, and maybe more so than recruit. I think one of those things those parades do. One, it just so happens that it's sort of kicking off the season. It's getting people ready. And so if it were to get canceled, it's like, it's just kind of a reminder we're getting together. Where, like, the season's getting ready to get started. And then the other one is just reinforcing, especially for the younger kids, the first and second, maybe third and fourth grade little ruggers. They love going to those parades, and they love that recognition. It's just part of the reward and recognition, and that sort of welcoming community that rugby wants to bring. And anything that gets kids, that maybe not playing other sports, but rugby just happens to be the fit for them. Anything that gets them some reward and recognition for playing a sport is probably a good thing. I think the parade probably means more in that context than it does for the recruiting context, although I think you said it pretty well there, Shane. And that would be disappointing if we lost that.
So, in case people haven't caught on, I tried to do a transition there to the main topic, and that is, to recruiting and promotion. And what's funny? I didn't. I like what both of you just said. You were talking about enforcing in the kids, validating in the kids, rewards and recognition. I think part of, promotion is to bring something in. Recruiting is to bring something in, but this is kind of another way of being able to retain. In some cases where you're competing with other activities, not just other sports, but other activities for the kids and the parents' time. Doing things like that, retaining might in fact be, kind of like the cousin to recruiting and promoting, is just keeping people there. So I didn't even think about it that way. The fact that you're validating and you're helping to retain the kids that you have. Because when I think of promotions, when I think of recruiting, I think of, guerrilla tactics to strong arm tactics to, flyers to whatever you can do, getting yourself seen, getting your message out. And a lot of times, in a lot of ways, in a lot of clubs at different levels, I've just seen a lot of people spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort, and nobody can give me a real, it's hard to be able to see, well, what's the return on that money? Like, what is the most effective thing that you've done to recruit? What is it, what is the thing that you did that, that worked really great in promotion? And, did that promotion, did that bring you, what do you promote? Sorry, go ahead. Why do you promote? Sorry, I think I cut somebody else. Yeah, jump in.
I'll
I
just say,
wasn't gonna. Yeah, go Shaggy.
so I'll just say, like, kind of going back to the parade. I think that is probably one of my best promotions, and shows what we're about and what we can offer. It kind of sums everything up, and it's free. So I think every youth rugby club needs to be in our in St. Patrick's Day parade. We have the recognition from people that are there just to celebrate Irish culture of rugby as being known as an Irish sport. So people that are unaware of rugby, see a youth rugby club in an Irish parade, and they immediately accept it, as belonging. So it's like you're part of that, and then so it's like, oh, that's cool, and the cute kids, they're throwing the ball around. It's awesome. So I think that's one of our better things, just ingraining ourselves in the community, being cool. So I think whatever we do, whatever we put into our flyers, whatever we put into our Facebook things, whatever we do, all we're really trying to do is look to be the cool thing to the kids, because if the kids don't think it's it's cooler than soccer, or cooler than lacrosse, they're not going to want to try it. And once they try it, they're going to be in,
Yeah.
right? But they need to think they need either have their friends say it's awesome, or they need to we need to show them, or show them that it's awesome. So that's
Yeah,
it's hard to do that with a flyer.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you out. But I agree completely. I think, I have a hard time saying exactly what our best recruitment strategy has been, or what's paid off the most. But I really think it's probably word of mouth from kids, kids and parents. We've done a great job with some kids from, 2 towns over who are wrestlers, and they've, word of mouth. We've got a couple of players that came from wrestling that are fantastic. And we have a couple of kids in town who are from lacrosse. And the president of the Rentham Youth Soccer, his kid plays rugby with us. We all play at the same field, and some of the kids get a look at what we do, and they say, "Hey, we want to try out rugby. We want to see what that's about." They come and try it, like it, and they tell their friends. We'd like for them to tell more of their friends, but I think that's really it. You get the kids to get their eyes on the sport, see that it looks fun, and come out and try it.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you said, Steve. I think word of mouth is the number one thing, and that's why I was talking a little bit earlier about you reach a critical mass, you can really start to build some momentum. So while there are tons of recruiting strategies, I'll just mention that just early engagement when kids are really young and trying new sports, like programs at the Y. If you can get kids to be aware of what rugby is, then they're more likely to sign up for it when they get a little bit older. I think that's a really big deal. But I couldn't agree more that it seems to me that the vast majority of the way that we build our programs is kids just telling their friends and then telling their friends. And it seems to be much more effective than a flyer. But if I had to pick one other thing, since you said it so well already, I would say it's those little clinics and getting the ball in people's hands and getting them the general awareness of what rugby, because why else would somebody try something new unless they've at least had a taste of it before they dig into the full dish. If we get a little taste of kids 5, 6, 7, 8, we're much, and I think that's what we're trying to focus on. But I think that's a big part of how you grow a program at large.
Yeah, we've actually just got some new yard signs made up. We've done a couple of those over the years. I throw some in the center of town, and they do seem to drive some people our way. One of the things that I put on the new batch here is free trial sessions. And we've said it for, since we've had a team, bring a friend, they can come, they can try it out. We welcome everybody to come for week 1 or week 2, week 3, whatever it might be, as long as they're not doing tackle. Come and try it for a week and see what it's about. So I think, most teams probably do that as well. You promote it as come and try it before you sign up. We try to keep our prices low in general, but we still don't want people to think, I need to sign up for this sport to see what my kid thinks about it. Or as a parent who doesn't know anything about rugby, they may be a little hesitant. But if you can tell them, come and try it out, see the first week, your kid can stand and watch, your kid can come and jump in and see if he or she likes what we're doing. And that's also been something I think that's really got us some players over the years.
Yeah, one thing that that you said earlier that that I think is a good idea. I couldn't quantify how many players we get into the sport. From what you said, is just practicing near them. We've been indoor practicing the bubble for. I think all of us have been involved in that for the past few weeks, and we're practicing right next to soccer kids and football kids, and they're seeing rugby, right? And as much as visibility as we can create ourselves in the community, again, it's just like just giving somebody a little taste. They just see it, they see that it's there, they see that it's a program that's a pretty good size. I think that's really one thing. One of my kids does, you probably know, they carry a ball everywhere, right? And kids and adults are always asking, what is that? I've never seen a rugby ball before. I never touched a rugby ball. Can I pass it? And if we, maybe if there were some more kids who they were doing that sort of thing, just showing that rugby's around. It's a sport in the community. It's an option for you if you're so inclined. I think it's also a good avenue. I don't know. I would put my money on word of mouth and some of the other activities that we said, but there's something to be said for just being there, just exposing more and more kids to a rugby ball.
Yeah, like we try to turn around our balls every year. You got to make sure those balls get out there, and recently, I mean, that's why I've been putting the extra money, the extra effort into, getting our balls customized with our logo, South Shore Sharks on it, just so when they get out there, I want to turn over the balls. I want 50 balls out in the wild every season. I do. I'll just kick them in the playground. I don't care, because they've gotten their use, and I want, that one new kid to pick it up, bring home, be like, what's this, and then that pays for the balls.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we waste a lot, and we waste a lot on, unsuccessful promotion.
So I'm keying in what you just said about waste a lot on unsuccessful promotion. And Shaggy, you and I were hanging out after the clinic that the Irish Wolfhounds put together, and we can talk about clinics in a bit, and how helpful they are for both recruiting and promoting. But I was starting to mull this thought around. And you talked about being in the parades, and you mentioned something that just I think encapsulates what's been said right here. And from a very pessimistic perspective, and as a business analyst, I would look and say, okay, how much time, how much effort, how much money have we spent on X, Y, and Z things that brought us zero return? And if it got us minimal to zero return, we should never do that again, right? And I asked you about the parade. I was like, well, why be in the parade? Like, do you really get any new players off the parade? And do you remember what you said to me?
Well, I said it normalizes us. It normalizes our sport. It's brute force injecting ourselves into the community.
Normalizes it. And I was like, oh, I started playing rugby in high school, so maybe I was blind to this. And I think what you guys have been talking about is, well, before you can go and grab people and say, hey, here's our club, come play, we kind of have to just throw effort, money, treasure, hours away into making it normal, so that people are not thinking, oh, what's that weird thing? I don't want to try that. But it becoming so common that the next half step is actually to just going out there and joining. And I just never even thought about it that way. So, like, how far are you guys willing to do? What are the types of things that you do to help normalize rugby and make it be just kind of like another thing? And you just said lose some balls, just get it out there in the community. Another one is parades. What are some of the other things that, like, technically get us perhaps no return whatsoever, but are pushing the agenda of making rugby more common out there? Any other ideas?
Well, I think the one thing we've done, Daniel, and for the Barbarians, we used to be the Acorns. We didn't have a very catchy name. We didn't have a very catchy logo. I mean, it was neat, but I think one of the best things we've done is kind of get a good logo, good colors, a strong branding, and also just wearing the swag out and about town. So I live in Rentham. It's not a big town, and we've been here 7 years. I still have a lot of people stop me when they see me wearing Rentham Youth Rugby, and they're like, "Tell me about that. Where are you? What are you guys? What do you do?" So I mean, this is something that's pretty low cost in the sense that it's just team gear that we have anyway. In fact, we make money from it. We get it, and we have a pretty good team as far as supporting us with buying it. And we get it out there and get the name out, and I'm sure I'm not the only one having those conversations wearing Barbarian Youth Rugby swag out and about.
Yeah, that's
The
a
brand-
really good point, Steve. I get
Yeah.
that. Whatever the rugby swag is we're wearing, that generates a lot of conversation. And
Yeah.
sometimes I do have a conversation at the grocery store saying, "Yeah, come on out. The Sharks practice this time. Go to this website and check them out." So you're totally right about that. That's a big one. And I guess I'll say while I'm out here, we're also getting some free promotion. The Free Jacks MLR, the stuff's on TV. We got the Olympics coming, right? The Free Jacks really sort of going gangbusters to try to sell out their home open. This is generating a lot of interest in the sport that we hadn't had before, and this is a really exciting time for.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So I cannot overemphasize how important a really great logo is. And it might just be me because I want to buy the swag. So Steve, I don't know if you guys can't see this, and if you watch the stream, it's going to be behind, so it's going to be hard to see. But what I just did is I showed, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to show what the Rentham old logo used to be, and I think it was great for what it was. It really was excellent for at that time what it was trying to do. It was just, as I understand it, kind of hard to get high school kids that are trying to do full contact tackle rugby to see themselves as acorns, and we needed to rebrand to grow with the fact that the entire club was growing. And now the brand is this, the Barbarian logo that changed the name, the logo. And folks, I can't wait for the next shirt, sock, hat, pullover, warm up, whatever. I cannot wait for the next one to come out because I want two of it.
It's cool.
I love that, and I've been sort of cycling through the different mascots and our emblems for the different clubs, and I just cannot overemphasize for folks just how important it is to maybe pay a little bit of money or find somebody with talent to put together a really neat logo that'll be really helpful. That'll really help drive it in. Now, another thing that I want to show is Anna's with White Plains, and they have a senior side team. So what I do is I'm going to change now. I'm going to show you the senior side one. And it's also the recruiting flyer for them, and they're the White Plains. I think they're the Tuskers. I'm not really sure. I hope I wish Anna had her mic working, but their emblem's really neat. It's this just it's this Tusker right there, and it's got his big giant tusks, and it's mean, and it looks like it's coming to get you. And well, they've expanded, and now they have a youth club that they're getting going. They're starting to they're feeling the bumps that we were all feeling, and there's the links there in the show notes. But I want to go ahead and bring up the second one, which is the youth logo. And what they've done is they've taken a tusker and they've given it little nubs of tusks because it's a baby. It's not a full tusker just yet. So they got themselves their own logo for it, and I got such a chuckle out of that. I just thought that was so endearing, and that alone, I think is going to make any parent go, "Oh, well, what's this about? What's this about? Let's go take a look." Does that make sense?
Yeah, it looks good. Those look good too. Those look great.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, branding.
A
I think
a cool brand, super important.
Yeah, absolutely. It draws people, right?
It is, and then the other thing too is I've seen 2 or 3 cars with Barbarian stickers on them over the last 2 or 3 years. And actually, Daniel, one of them was yours. I was following you a couple weeks ago. I never told you, but to see your swag, it's funny for a small club to see your stuff on somebody at a supermarket or a car in the parking lot. It's pretty cool. So I would say anybody that wants to help promote their team, hats, T-shirts, hoodies, stickers. You don't need to go crazy with volume with everything, but some people will put a sticker on their car. Some people won't. Some people wear a hat. Some people, we've been pretty lucky with selling a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sharing Shaggy stuff also, the Facebook, and your guys' shark is just awesome.
A shark is an easy sell. You can do a lot with it, you know.
It's pretty cool. You know what? I remember back, and what was interesting to me is I thought that start off as acorns, and maybe as you get into like maybe high school rugby or a sapling, and then when you get into an adult rugby, it's a whatever the tree is, an oak or
The oaks.
yeah, the oaks, right? And I thought that's where we were headed. Which was seemed pretty clever. And while I'm at that, though, I do think when it comes to earlier, we just talked a little bit about retention. When I talked about retention, it is nice for teams to sort of earn stripes, and there's something probably to be said that like you earn some stripes and you become, probably sapling's not the right word, but you graduate from the acorn to an oak, and so. The Tusker idea that you were talking about earlier, like that sort of you sort of get an extra stripe, or you get a every couple of years, and I think it would probably help with retention and help have sort of goals for the kids to strive for.
Oh my goodness, or a tusk. You're not an extra stripe, but an extra like tusk.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so cool. Like an orc, an orc tooth, coming out of your face. That's just crazy. That's awesome.
I think that's a great idea. We actually had talked about going from the acorns to the oaks. I mean, the Englishman Chip, who founded us, really started the acorns because of the saying, "From the acorn grows the mighty oak." I might be paraphrasing, but we even played around with that for the kids. We had the different barbarian horde names for the different age group teams that we used for a couple of years. But it is cool. It's a great progression because it promotes camaraderie within the age group teams, and then they also see themselves progressing to that next group. It's not just just the barbarians or just the sharks or whoever. It's a different subset. It's graduating to that next rank. It's pretty cool for them.
Yeah, it's really like so. I suspect we might move on from this. You're so right about the swag. It sort of frustrates me when swag for a team's not available. It's like, first of all, it should be generating revenue for the club if you do it right, and then on top of that, it's really good for sort of recruiting and promotion in the community. And some of the clubs it's really hard to get swag from, and not just clubs, but also sort of at a national level in the academies. Like, some of them are hard to get swag, but Barbarians, I think, do that really, really well. It's probably a model that we should be looking at for you, Shaggy, and the Sharks and the other youth clubs.
Absolutely,
you're probably very right. That's good for promotion. And I suspect, Steve, you are making money on this.
We are. So yeah, we so it's funny I was a bit frustrated like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, with some of the t-shirts we got. So I taught myself how to silk screen. So I did the first batch of t-shirts for us doing silk screening. And
I love it.
I enjoyed it, and it was cool. They weren't the best shirts, but they were cheap, and they had our own logo, and I could make them whenever we wanted. And so I actually make all of our team swag now. I make the hats and the pullovers and the windbreakers. I do heat press and some silk screen, and so it's great to have that control. And yeah, we probably make more money than most clubs just because we get to do that. I can make them on demand. If we want to try out a new design, we try it. If somebody wants to run a 5, we'll do it, and then we make 1 or 2 big pushes every year. In the early spring and late fall, we'll do hoodies and pullovers, and in the summer we'll pull out a couple new t-shirt designs. But we our home tournament, I mean, you guys know, we've had, I think, like all of us, Marshfield as well, 300 plus kids, and we're able to feed, cook 300 burgers, feed all the players, field 4 fields from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. with medics and whatever else, and not charge anybody to come play at our tournament. And that's a really great feeling. I don't know how sustainable that is for all clubs going forward, but to be able to do that now, hosting an entry fee free tournament at our home pitch is fantastic. And that's one of the ways that we do it.
Hey, you left out the misting tent. The misting tent is the highlight.
That was great.
That was amazing.
That's what we all got to kind of strive for. The whole pay per tournament model that can't go on. We need to figure out our budgets and sort it out. Like if like for us this year, it's like we found out we couldn't afford the food, we couldn't coordinate the food, so we just outsourced it. We got the food trucks there, and that kind of broke us even. And we broke even, but it's all about, it's if every club, incorporated the cost of their own home jamboree, then it would really simplify all our budgets.
Absolutely.
Now going back to the swag for 1 minute, I would, Stevens, I'm so jealous of you. So like when we get swag, it's really difficult because we really run on a shoestring budget, and with the swag, I can't and the variation in sizes of the kids, I have to really figure out who wants what in advance, and on top of that, I always need to print in bulk and order in bulk to make things happen. So it's difficult, you really got to guess, and every time we order something, we try to do something. I try to coordinate it before the season begins, because during season you don't know what that next expense is going to be. You get that kid joining late, and you got to order, you order new shorts, new shirt, all that stuff. So it's tricky, but ideally, you get this backlog of gear, have an online store or something, and that's great, because I love seeing the kids out there with the sweatshirts or the shirts on. It is the best promotion, because that is being cool. You have a cool brand, you have kids hanging out with their their club logos on. I mean, what's cooler than that?
Right.
And the reason that I really love a really good emblem, coat of arms, whatever it is, in a really good kit, is that it's kind of like the trifecta, right? It's if your kids are wearing it around town, or if your club is walking as a group to practice or something, that's like free promotion. You're getting your name out there. People are seeing it, particularly if it's got a really cool emblem in it. And not only is it promotion, that could turn into recruitment. Somebody could come up and be like, "Hey guys, that's really cool. What or at least it normalizes them. Just a cool factor, or just a visual right there, is going to promote somebody to go ahead and recruit. And then if you're doing it right, and I really love the model, the way that Steve has done it, and I think I might press him for a little bit more info on this, is you have the third piece where it's not just taking funding, but it's making you a little bit of money. It's actually, hopefully it's funding itself, and hopefully it's funding other parts of the program. Now, the reason that I'm not, I think it's a great, it's great at the mid game. If you're talking about the short game, the mid game, and the long game as far as your vision. The short game, you may not have the money up front to be able to get a really great kit going. In the long game, I'm not sure that it's gonna be great, because technically you are taxing your own players and your own players' family, right? So you're already taking money from the players to participate in your club, and then rightfully, you are providing extra kit for them that they could buy if they want. And Steve, the ideas that you've had and the way that you've gone with this has just been absolutely amazing. The what is it, the Rugby Mom T-shirt? I've never seen that anywhere else. That was amazing.
That was a good one.
So it's also bringing in some funding, but technically there's only so many t-shirts that I am willing to buy, and it's probably 10 more than any other reasonable person out there, but there is a limit to how much funding you're going to be able to get out of me through a good kit. But I would say never underestimate how important, as far as promotion, as far as recruitment, and as far as funding, a great kit can do. And if you don't feel like your emblem is good enough, or if you don't feel that your kit is good enough, your colors are not good enough, I don't know. And there's a lot to be said for tradition. Do not spit in the eye of tradition. But you might want to do a little bit fine tuning to get that a little bit more dialed in, so you can start getting better promotion, recruiting, and funding. Because if you can get all those three things in there, oh man, that's amazing, huh?
Yeah, indeed. And I would add, kids usually you create some sort of solidarity when kids are, all showing up in the same sweatshirt, or families are showing up in the same sweatshirt or hanging out at the grocery store. And again, it gets to your attention too. When kids are happy and there's some solidarity, they want to stick with the club. So yeah, there's, like you said, there's just almost all upside if you get to.
Great. Okay, so what are other good examples of something that you would use for promotion or recruiting? What we talk about, flyers, or what do we talk about, websites?
Yeah, so I'm sure we all do flyers. It's just it's it's what we all have known, from the dawn of time. You put up a flyer at a bar, put a flyer up at a telephone pole. You print them all out and put them up there. Now, like I do flyers. Probably I try to make about 3 or 4 iterations during the off season, so people are trying to look at the new thing. Granted, I'm not that great at it. I have I the last one I did, for example, I took it was probably a 15-minute flyer. We're all kind of crunched for time, with in the volunteer world. So, we do what we can do. And but we get them up. I think it's just important to try to figure out where those places where they're going to be seen and not ignored are, what we can put on them, that what kind of information we put on them, how much and how little we put on. You don't want to put on too much information, because no one's going to read a flyer. They're going to look at a flyer, and if they like the way the flyer looks, then they might read a line or two. And then if they really like that line or two, maybe they'll read the details. Right.
So what would go on a flyer? Do we have anybody here with a graphic design or anything, or just share our experiences, which are flyers, that have worked particularly well? Do we have examples of that? Throw it up on show notes. I have one here from White Plains. I can share that.
Yeah, let's go for it.
I have mine up here as well. It's not that great.
Which one is it, Shaggy?
That's all right.
That's my 15-minute flyer at the top. Facebook.
Yeah. So while you're pulling it up, Dan, I would say, what's the most important thing? What are we trying to communicate with the flyer, right? Who are we trying to communicate to, and what are we trying to communicate? Is the big thing. And so you can't put everything on the flyer. So the number one thing that you would think would go on a flyer is a website. Sometimes I've seen a lot of times it's a telephone number. Steve, you talked earlier about having lawn signs up, I think, and and sometimes you can't really fit a lot of information on a lawn sign. A telephone number in this day and age, people don't want to call. People want to use Instagram or Facebook or another website. And it's like, for me, probably the number one thing, if you if I'm going to follow up, I'm going to follow up with a website. So if I can remember that it's Rentham Barbarians, and I can type that into Google and find Rentham Barbarians immediately, the same thing goes for South Shore Shark or White Plains. I would say that's the number one thing. But the other thing is something that catches an eye of our intended audience, and that's probably the one thing I would say. The other thing is a strong website. It's about what happens next. You get somebody with a flyer, they go to Google, it pops up, and like, what does the website say? Does it have the information that's needed enough? But the other one is, who are we trying to talk to when we're recruiting on these flyers? And does the picture that we have on there represent the values of rugby, the sort of welcoming spirit, the notion that everybody has a spot on the rugby, and that rugby's this rugby's a super fun sport. Just as an anecdote, by the way, I got into rugby. I did know about rugby, but I got into rugby from a flyer. It was simple. It just said play rugby, and I think it had come to practice on Tuesday night. It was that simple. But the times were simpler back. But flyers do work. I'm walking evidence on that one, and I think probably a lot of us started rugby through a flyer. But really, so I'm going to pause, take a look at these flyers you're showing.
Apparently, my flyer is not working because I'm really great at internet. But I'll just explain. I'll just explain what my latest flyer was, and this is basically this is designed strictly for Facebook. Really, if I was to put it up on print it out and put it up on a billboard, I would add information to the bottom. But what I have is I just have our emblem. So I have about I have the paper, you know, 8 by 11 area split up into four different sections, about in essentially quarters. So quarter up, left, right, middle, and bottom. So I have the information in the middle saying South Shore Sharks, emblem on the left, picture of the flag kids on the upper right, picture of contact kids on the bottom, and all it says is Sharks Rugby 2020 spring season begins in April, and that's it. And like I said, what I've found is the graphics, few words and few graphics do just as well as a million words and a million graphics.
I agree with that.
So keeping it simple seems to be doing just as well as really trying really hard. And so along with that, I have the links to our Facebook and our website for the registration. And that's it. Just getting it out there, getting the simple messages out there.
Yeah, and I would say, by the way, when you talk about having pictures on there, Shaggy, I'm not looking at the pictures, but I know you do a good job with this. It's kids having fun. What values are you trying to say? If we have just that little time to have a picture, it's like it's got to be smiling faces. It's got to be shoulder to shoulder, and to the extent that we can possible, sort of a cross population of the rugby population, big kids, small kids, some level of diversity and every way that we have it is probably what we're shooting for if you're going to have some pictures. And by the way, that doesn't have to be just on a flyer, also on the website. And I know you do that pretty well on the website, Shaggy. Those are, but I agree with you. Simple is good, but we gotta send a message. I think with it, like, which is like something entices somebody. And I told you earlier, for me, the flyer was "Give Blood, Play Rugby." That appealed to me. But how, what simple word or phrase can we have that helps appeal to someone? Which one of us had a flyer that said, "Why not try rugby"? Was that Barbarians?
Yeah, that was a picture we had from that was just a photo on our Facebook page. It was basically, we had Nate Ebner come out to one of our practices. So it was a picture of Nate, with his USA Rugby shirt with a bunch of our kids running around, everybody, looking, smiling, having fun, and says, "Why not try rugby?" We had a couple others. We had a good one, which we actually printed. We don't do a lot of paper copies, but we did a printed one I'm looking for right now. I just uploaded one that we had created that we didn't go with, and I forget why, but we have a marketing guy who's one of our coaches, and he did a couple different iterations of flyers for us. And I agree, the ones that we send to the school, the ones that we hand out, are pretty brief, one page on the front, and we'll have a couple of pictures depending on what age school it is. Our youngest kids playing, or middle school or high school, age appropriate photo or two on there, having fun, and describe it as a sport, promoting camaraderie, boys and girls, and all the values that rugby instills. And we try to keep it simple and invite everybody to come out and try it. I don't know whether this one I just uploaded will open or not.
One of the big ones I would say is, like, what does somebody do after they see the flyer? Let's say somebody sees the flyer and they heard from a friend that rugby was a cool sport. Like, what do they do next? And I think the answer is they go onto the website, right? And so I think that the next phase, maybe it's the next podcast, I don't know how much time we have, but maybe the next phase is, what does your website say? How does your website sort of, like, you got somebody's attention, they clicked on your website, they're getting ready to register. What information do they want then, right? They want to know how fun rugby is. They want to know how much it costs. They want some deadline, right? So, like, that simple information probably needs to be the next click. If we're not going to put a lot of information on the flyer, which all we really want is a website. Even we haven't tried this or ever talked about, even like that barcode where you just scan the barcode and it brings you there. Like, the next step got to be like what's that critical information that people want? And it's probably always the same. How much does it cost? When do I need to sign up? How much fun?
Yeah, I agree with that, because writing down Facebook page addresses, or addresses that have a deep link, a bunch of slashes, 200 character long web addresses might be really hard, and even for people to remember. But having some of those codes, if somebody has a phone, they can just hold the camera up to it and it just brings them right to that link. I haven't heard a lot of that being done, but I love that idea. I would like to see that happen, because unless you have a really easy web page, to remember, it might be too much. I hate to say it, but it might be too much for somebody to, just easily, quickly get it if they're just walking past it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Love the idea. I love the idea of just scan it in. That's super cool. It's high tech. I love it.
So flyers are a big part of it. I mean, they've been with us, since forever. Flyers will always be around. What are some of the other things that you guys have done that maybe you haven't seen other people do that help to normalize or that help, promote or help recruit? What are some of the wacky things you've done or some of the interesting things that you've done or that you've seen?
I'll just say, so one thing I would really, really urge every other youth club to do would be to reach out to your local papers, your local Wicked locals, and get in charge of get a hold of the sports editor and start writing articles. Especially in the summer, there's very little sports competition out there, and local papers are dying for content, especially content with smiling little kids. They love it. It's great promotion. It's really awesome for the kids. Sometimes like I write all the articles. And I'm terrible, and half the time I have all the numbers are completely wrong. But at the end of the day, you have the pictures up there. You have a synopsis. You get the names down. People. The kids are. Kids have the papers, and they're on they're on the Wicked local site. I can link to all the articles, and then since I cover a wide area, I'm having local papers printed in 6 to 7 different towns, every week in the summer. So that's getting out there, and again, that's getting into mom and pop's hands on Sunday, looking at the local paper. A lot of times it's front of the sports section because I hype up all our tournaments because it's important to me, it's important to the kids, so I'll make it sound important, and I get a good relationship with the editors, and you get it out there. And I would love to see every other club doing that, and I really think they should, because it's the most exciting thing happening in the summer, especially for these kids.
Shaggy,
you guys do a great job with that. It's great to see the Sharks getting in the paper. I see that all summer long coming up. It's good.
I've never seen it
me,
before. I'd never seen it before. That is so cool. Sorry, I cut you off, Shaggy. That's so cool.
I mean, it's like I've seen it with you guys, the Barbarians. You had your articles written about you for your Abner there. You had like legit press coverage.
Yeah.
It's just the articles are just me. You know what I mean? And any parent can do it. And just write a couple things, submit a couple pictures. Anyone that can type, I'm sure anyone can type better than me. So it's about an hour, 2 hours a Sunday night, and it's great. It's a good thing for the kids. It's a good thing for the clubs.
One of the other things we've done, we only did it once, but I would have done it again this summer. I had a conflict. Last summer we went to Rentham Day, which is in the center of town. There's tables and tents set up, and they make like the 50-foot long sundae, and they do the golf ball drop from the fire truck ladder, all the little things they do in a little town. And we don't get a heck of a lot of recruitment from it, or at least that I know of. I know we got at least 2 kids, which is great. It makes it worth it. One day get 2 new players, it's worth it to me. But it is a little bit about what you had mentioned before about normalizing or maybe socializing. It's just, hey, we are in town. You may have seen somebody with a shirt, but come talk to us. You can see us here. We try to have some of the kids at the table. If we're really lucky, we'll have them passing the ball around and interacting with people when they come by. But it's an easy thing to do. We also put up our yard signs. We talked early on tonight about other sports. We put up our yard signs at the baseball field, at the lacrosse field, and we'll keep them there until somebody decides to throw them away. So we just try another way to get our name out there with recruitment like that.
No, that's great. Yeah, you got to get involved those town things. It's almost like you got to have like you're doing the town a favor by showing up, really, because youth rugby is super cool. You got to show up, have some swagger, and The kids would love it, and
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think about the. I think that I never thought of the term normalize because that's actually not a term that I would have used, but I kind of think of it as like this is a nudge, right? You go to Rentham Day and you get a little rugby nudge. You see somebody maybe you go to the park and you see some kids playing rugby and and then you go to a bar or probably not that's the place you see it. Then you go to the grocery store, Starbucks, and you see a flyer on the wall and you get another nudge, and then you get a Facebook post, right? And you get and we post to one of our local Facebook town postings. You know what it is? You get that last nudge, and then because I think social media is probably the way to go. Like the day of the flyer. I hope we're talking about flyers in the terms of actually paper attached to a telephone pole, but also the flyers that we're sending out through particularly Facebook, maybe more so via Instagram if there's a way to do that. But that last nudge, you're on Facebook, and you're like, okay, that's the fourth time I've seen rugby. Let me click that link and find out more about it. So yeah, actually, the really good idea is like, you know what, you can't quantify what Rentham Day does for you because you don't know if that was the second nudge, and the next nudge was the one that got people to come play. So I think that's a really good context. I never considered it.
Yeah, it's an event that's easy for us to do, to get a spot, show up, and interact. It's definitely worth it. I would suggest other clubs, if you can, in your town, do it. We don't have a St. Patrick's Day parade, but this is what we do. One of the town things. We have a summer parade. I would see Shaggy. I love the way you guys get into the parade and get out in town. We'll see if we can do that this summer.
Do it. Got to do it.
Hey, while you're talking about lawn signs, pardon me if I switch gears here a little bit, but when I think about promotion and recruiting, I put it in a context of who, what, when, where, and how. And while you're talking about lawn size, about when, one of the things that when I was part of the team, started the Sharks back however long ago, it was 8 years ago, right? So I was part of that. Dan Mason did all the work, and you were there, Shaggy, too, right? So we're all a team here. But so I had a vested interest in it, but my kids were already signed up for baseball and lacrosse, right? And I wanted rugby to be more successful than anybody else on the planet at that stage of the game. But I already had multiple conflicts. I think we probably had karate or something like that at the same time too. So one of the things I want to talk about is when, right? It's probably really important to not be having these conversations in March, but to be having them in December or January before the sign baseball, because you want to be on the front conversation, not the back end of it. I don't know if you guys face that similar conversation, but that's one thing I know.
Yeah, every year I really want to open my registration straight in November. November's the time you need to start promoting.
Yeah.
Every year.
Jen actually just chimed up and said the same thing.
Every single year I get hung up in registration through Miro. So I can't like, even right now we're supposed to switch to a new registration format weeks ago, and it still hasn't opened. You know what I mean? So even now I'm really registering kids before I can get them in the system. So I can't fully, which kind of stinks on an administrative end, because I need to account for the money that comes. I want everyone. I want to pay for everyone's registration and everything that comes along with that, first before we get into everything else. But I can't. I get caught up with the numbers if I'm not able to get people in the system. So it's like I'm hesitant to really push registration, because especially even this year. I mean, you weren't on the podcast last week or the week before. We were talking about the trouble with USA Rugby. It's been this year's been really bad with we kind of didn't know which way things were going to go with USA Rugby, with insurance, with this and that and the other. So it's like early recruitment would be kind of a disservice to players in my mind, like from where I was standing, because I had so many questions of what I was going to be affording those kids. Without that we've gotten closer, things have kind of tightened up. So I know we have a field. We're gonna have insurance. So those are two things that were in the back of my mind that I didn't know we were gonna have until last month, really. So So that's the problem, really, which is unfortunate because November is when you're going to be really competing with the other spring sports for recruitment, and it's just timing doesn't really work out, at least for my club, which stinks.
Yeah. It's what do you think about that? The Rentham guys. Do you have a situation?
Yeah, to be completely frank, I think that's one piece I could probably push better each year is getting registration out earlier and done. Kind of to Shaggy's point, the registration through Myra was a bit later, but we could get some things out through the town a bit earlier. I get it through the school, so we have flyers that go out through the school. We start April 26th. So, our registration is open now. We're taking people in. Would it be better to have it open in February? Maybe. I've thought a couple times that if we're really going to try to do earlier registration or do it early in the year, I'd want to try to set up in line with that well before our season a parent night. Kind of like when my older kids played tackle football, they had a parent night. So it was go ask questions about the sport. Most people know about American football, but go ask questions about the sport, meet the coaches and that sort of thing. And one of the things I always wanted to do is have a parent night, try to promote that and set it up, and maybe in conjunction with another event happening at the school, and do that early in the season or early before the season, and do it in conjunction with registration being open early. But I'll be honest, I don't know what the right time really is for registration for us. Even when we've opened it a bit earlier, we still seem to get people registering late, or a week before the season they'll call and ask if they can still register. So I don't know what the right timeline is really for that.
Yeah, and that's really. But on the other hand, I don't want to turn any, let alone this one. So I have a really hard time saying if somebody is trying to register them away, but that's sort of a slip, a hairy edge there. We want to have a deadline to force people. You're not really going to hold it. So tough call.
Yeah, and the other thing that it's an interesting dynamic here is we're not recruiting players. We are to a certain degree, and if we can get the players to want to do rugby and approach their parents and say, "Mom, Dad, can you please sign me up for rugby?" That would be amazing. But technically, we're not really recruiting to the players, right? We're recruiting to the parents. So we got to think about when are parents thinking about getting their kids, signing up their kids for different activities, and how do we get this information out in front of them, right? Because we're not, it's not like college. It's not like senior side where you're going out there and you're focusing on grabbing adults that have they own their own schedule. We're technically recruiting parents. I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, really good point. Yeah, that is so right. And again, that goes to probably that the next time they scan that barcode, or they click on the link on Facebook, that you're right, that probably that conversation that marketing has to appeal to a parent. Right? That's a really good point.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so we talked about flyers, we talked about web pages, what to have, what not to have. We talked about being able to reach out to local newspapers and write up articles for them. I mean, that's phenomenal. I never thought about that. And you're right, everybody should be doing that because it's normalizing. And Chris, to your point, I never would have thought about it. I never would have used the word normalizing, but it just fits so well. And it seems to be such a big, you got to have the populace, you got to have people understand, be aware that rugby is a thing. And to your point, the Olympics, Sevens, World Cup, they're the new professional team in town. Hopefully that's going to be doing a lot of the work there. Anything else we can explore, or did we hit just about everything? We're bumping up about an hour into this, and I don't want to hold you guys much longer than we need to. Are there other really neat things that we want to be able to talk about? Promotion and recruiting.
Yeah, there's one thing that.
Oh, your mic keeps coming in and out. You might want to, if you're pressing to talk, press longer.
Oh, I'm not pressing to talk. I don't know why that's happening. You can hear me okay now?
Yep, you're perfect now.
So one thing that we'd be talking about if Daryl were here is getting into schools and into PE classes. And so, maybe it's probably best to have a conversation with him. But again, that's another part of nudging people and normalizing the sport is to have a PE module. I know Daryl's been working on that with the schools, but it probably is at least bears a little bit of mentioning is that's another activity that I think Daryl's got going on that goes probably a long way to sort of one more nudge or a big giant nudge to kids to get them exposed to the sport and sort of normalizing the program. So so that's it.
Yeah, one other thing too to mention, and Daniel, I think we had discussed this at one point, but you and I are both involved in Scouts, and I know Peter from our club, another coach who's involved in Scouts. There's actually in Boy Scout or Cub Scouts, which is also now girls can go into Cub Scouts, so it's boys and girls that you can kind of target. There's mandatory activities of learning a new sport, or certain things you can do, and if you can find a way to offer that up, like right now, I think 10%. I think it is. I think it's 10% of my Cub Scout pack play rugby with us. And some of them have done it. When I've been a den leader for 2 different dens where we've invited them out. Daniel, every week he comes, it seems like he has a van full of Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts coming with him. So, it's another way to find. It's one of those things where you're really sort of doing them a favor, by offering to the Cub Scouts, I will come and take an hour of time away from you that you need to plan. Here's something that we're going to do. We're going to have them run around, get tired, have fun, and complete an activity. And then hopefully at the end of it, you've got a couple players that want to come back and do it again. It's something that we can probably do a lot more of. We've done it a couple times with pretty good success, but it's another thing to look into.
Yeah,
That's awesome, Stephen. I was looking into like we have a lot of Boy Scouts involved in the Sharks. It's just because there's just a bunch of them involved, so they kind of stick together. And I was looking for some kind of but there's a merit badge or some kind of activity so you can.
Yeah, so the We Below year, which is 4th grade, has a sport activity that they need to do, and one of the requirements is to learn a new sport. But you could actually take that whole requirement and build it around rugby. There's some fitness pieces, there's some other things, but really, I think at any age group, you would be able to find an activity that would be satisfied, or at least partly satisfied by, fitness, activity, outdoors. Outdoor work, and you can tie rugby into any of it.
Nice.
And I would say that also goes for any other activity, but any sort of, especially when we talk about the summer season of sevens, any activity that's ending in spring, and these kids have less to do heading into the summer. If there's a way that we could grab on to those spring players, the soccer players who have the end of the season, and say, hey, you don't have to stop, being outside. There's another sport that you can try. So sort of, just saying Scouts isn't the only one. And maybe it's some flag football program, or maybe it's soccer or some other activities where we could say, hey, there's an option for you. I know that this season's winding down, but there's something for you in the summer. One part I want to mention about is you all saw Southborough and Northborough's middle school teams just come out of nowhere this last summer.
Yeah.
How did they build an entire program of relatively good and athletic kids, and they just popped out of nowhere? And I'm always looking for where's somebody been successful, and that was really impressive what they were able to do just to pop out of nowhere. And my hunch, I never talked to them about that. I'm not sure if any of you have, but my hunch is they just sort of contacted the football team or something like that and said, hey, you want to do something for summer? Let's play rugby. And they came out of nowhere, and it was a really good program, and I thought a really successful season for them.
Yeah, so you're right. No, they came out of nowhere. I think what actually happened, so we talked to Dom Gostick, whose son who played with us and whose first name I forget. Unfortunately, he wasn't on my team, but Alan and Ryan coached him. He was there's a player on the football team that I think at one year was maybe not the most spectacular tackler on the team, and he came back after a summer and was the best tackler on the team. And the coach asked him, hey, what happened? What have you been doing? And he said, I've been playing rugby. And so they had the football coach's encouragement for the whole team to come out and play rugby. They went from 0 kids to 40. They had 2 I think it was roughly 40. They had 2 full-fledged middle school tackle teams their first season playing, and they were only middle school. I also think that was another scout-related team where, as part of his Eagle Scout project, Dom's son, who was in high school, organized and created and helped coach the middle school teams. But you're right; they came out of nowhere. They were a team full of athletes, full of kids that were ready to play. And that was a really good success story for them.
That was super impressive.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think we're running out of steam on this one. Do you have anything else that you can think of? Anything else to bring up as far as promotion? I know there's a lot there. Actually, we could keep going a lot further. I don't know that I want to open up. The next twist to promotion and recruiting. I mean, we're talking about promoting and recruiting. We haven't even talked about the funds aspect of it. I mean, a large part of why you want to promote is to be able to get funds and get sponsorship. I think we're gonna it's best if we take that, we can it, and we use it for another discussion, perhaps. I don't know, maybe next week, because I think promotion, recruiting, and funding is the sort of like the three. The three legs at the stool, kind of balances itself on. But anything else that you think we can talk about? If not, we can start thinking about wrapping it up.
Well, I got one more thing just to kind of bring it back, because we didn't really talk fully on the aspects of it. So with the Olympics and MLR, we all have we do all have the essentially free promotion. We can latch on to those to all those programs, and being able to point at those things, point at Nest, and tell attach our have our our fundraisers in conjunction with a local Major League Rugby match on TV. Again, that's super normalizing the situation, and getting kids, bringing the whole community together from the top to the bottom, because the MLR, the Free Jacks have been great, just reaching out. They're really hands on with the kids, ready to go out, to show up at anyone's practice, and just so us as youth clubs, as established clubs, or even new clubs, using the MLR is helping them help us. And we all should really be putting in an effort to point at them, have them point at us, and grow the sport. As their success rises, so ours will, because it makes it cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, really well said, Shaggy. There's one thing that I pretty much exhausted my list, but I will say that one thing that parents are really interested in is college sports and college scholarship, and particularly on the girls' side of sports. There's a lot of opportunity there. You could certainly do a whole podcast on it, but it probably bears mentioning is that speaks to the parents when we started talking about earlier about like who is our audience when when people are registering for a sport. The notion that there's a lot more rugby scholarships and rugby opportunities available to a young girl than there are soccer opportunities or basketball probably speaks to a lot of parents, and so it's probably maybe a topic for another day, but probably worth mentioning as we're talking about recruitment and how we build the sport.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing to bring in. I've been very reticent to even start thinking and going in that direction. But I'd be very interested in seeing, at least from us, we probably are a great group to talk about this, is, some of us have high school teams, and some of our high school players are now graduating and going off to college. And it'd be neat to start hearing some of the stories from our own clubs about the players that pick a school because it has a strong rugby program, and then what are the players that perhaps had some sort of reaching out from the schools themselves, saying, "Oh, you play rugby, why don't you come take a look at our schools?" Or, "Oh, hey, you play rugby? That's great. Why don't we make things a little bit easier for you so that you stay at this school?" That I don't. I'll be afraid, guys. I'll be honest. I'm afraid to talk about that because there's just a lot wrapped up in there, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm selling a product that's going to get your kid into college. but I think the fear is probably a good indicator that it probably would make a really great topic. Just riffing on what you said, Chris. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I agree that like I just not open up that can, but yeah, it could be a topic for a day about, starting a high school girls program or starting girls programs. It's certainly, you certainly wouldn't want to insinuate that somebody has a great chance of a scholarship, but if you have a whole team, somebody in that team is going to have a good shot. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like I said, just wanted to
No,
glance
I
at the top.
agree. No, I absolutely agree. I'm just afraid of the topic.
I'll just say, just insofar as recruitment, our sport does have a clear pathway for all skill levels. So that's a good selling point for the sport that,
Good
can be
point.
communicated. We can show if it's not, you
Great
can
point.
play college, you can play a club, you can play as an old man, you can come back and coach. It's all accessible for anyone that wants to play. So, as long as the desire is there, as long as they love the sport, that's a there's always a place for someone in rugby, and that's and there's with especially with MLR, they're gonna with them reaching out and them being accessible, kids can see where they can go locally, especially around here. That's where they can go locally, and then you can always go nationally. It's all, so I think it's all at this stage we're growing, and any kid from any of our clubs can reach any of those levels. So it's very reasonable.
Yeah, well said, Shaggy.
Absolutely.
Something for everybody.
Absolutely. All right, guys, how are we doing now? We want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think we're over time.
I'm
Yeah.
done with my bagel, so
That's a great measure for knowing we're there. All right, guys. In order of Discord, top to bottom. Oh, I guess I would be the first one. Just a shout out or a last mention or something. And I probably should have been thinking about it since I'm supposed to be the first one. You know what? I'm gonna keep it really tight, really tight. I want to thank you, Chris. I want to thank you, Chris, and I want to thank Daryl. The new folks that are joining our little experiment here of sitting around talking about something very, very specific that we want to be able to push out and have some of the other coaches, hear us chatting about it. Feel like they're part of a community. Agree, disagree with us. Perhaps give them some ideas, and at the very least, as we were saying earlier, building culture. Just letting them know that they're not alone, and that everybody's facing these fears. So just really want to thank Chris and last week Daryl for being the newest members to join in and have some fun.
Well, thanks. So does that mean I have to go next?
Yep, we're going down the Discord list.
So so I wasn't ready for a shout out, but I will say if it's possible, I'll give one to Carolina youth rugby. I mentioned it to a couple of people earlier. We went down to a big tournament this weekend, Ruggerfest. The tournament director made a spot for my kid. A really welcoming community. Just welcome and say, your kid wants to play rugby. You're going to be down here. Yeah, we'll find a spot for your kid. My kid played for the South Mecklenburg County Savages team. Had a great time. Really welcome. Really fun tournament. And I just really appreciate that Carolina Youth Rugby or Charlotte Youth Rugby was just like, yeah, you want a kid who plays rugby, we're gonna find a spot for them and play rugby. That's the kind of spirit that I'm really looking for from USA Rugby, from Myro, and from all of us. Kid wants to play, let's get him to play.
Wow.
Well done by the Charlotte squad there.
That is super
Amen.
cool. That is the rugby way.
Well, I'll save my shout outs for the medical community, the people taking care of the really sick people through this outbreak.
Great point. Wow, great point, Shaggy.
Yeah, my shout out this week is for Alex Magleby and the Free Jacks for bringing professional rugby to New England. this weekend we'll be parked in the festival lot with the grill with some drinks and having some fun. And my kids will not know what it's like to grow up without professional rugby, which I am super psyched about.
So cool.
Awesome.
I'm so psyched to tailgate at a rugby game with you guys. So psyched. Are you guys at quick check? Who's going? Who's going to be there? Shaggy, I think you're not going to be able to go, right? Not this week?
I got to get there. You know, I got to get my scarf. So.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I'll be there on time, but.
All right, look for us, buddy. Chris,
My whole family will be there. Yep, all you know, the whole family will be there.
Oh,
so you're not
I'm
missing that.
extra psyched now. I am so psyched, guys. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a great day.
Fantastic. All right. Well, with salutations to everybody and shout outs to everybody, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up right here. So, guys, everybody, thank you very much. And we'll see you probably next week, same time. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.